Welcome to the enchanting realm of orchids, where beauty meets intricacy. Orchids, with their intricate patterns and vibrant hues, weave a captivating tale of nature's genius. From the delicate phalaenopsis to the resilient dendrobium, each type carries a unique allure, a distinct personality. Their broad appeal spans across homes, greenhouses, and botanical gardens, transforming spaces into floral paradises. Now that you're enticed by these beautiful flowers, let's uncover the secrets of their care. Understanding orchids begins with getting to know their basic anatomy. Like other flowering plants, orchids have roots, leaves, and blooms, but there's more to them than meets the eye. The roots of an orchid go beyond simply anchoring the plant to its potting medium. They're also crucial for water and nutrient absorption. What sets orchids apart is their unique root system, covered in a spongy layer called velamen. This layer helps the orchid absorb water and protects it from drying out quickly. Moving upwards, we find the leaves, the primary site for photosynthesis. Orchids typically have thick, succulent leaves, but their color and shape can vary widely depending on the species. For instance, some orchids have long, slender leaves, while others have round, broad ones. The crowning glory of any orchid, of course, is its bloom. Orchid flowers are renowned for their stunning beauty and intricate structure. Each bloom consists of 3 sepals and 3 petals. But what really steals the show is the labellum, a specialized petal that often serves as a landing pad for pollinators. Now let's talk about some of the popular orchid species that you might come across. The phalaenopsis or moth orchid is possibly the most common type of orchid found in homes. It's loved for its long-lasting blooms and easy care requirements. The dendrobium orchid, on the other hand, is known for its tall, cane-like stems and vibrant flowers. And then there's the Cattleya orchid, often referred to as the queen of orchids. Its large, fragrant blooms are a sight to behold. Meanwhile, the Oncidium orchid, also known as the dancing lady, captivates with its spray of small dancing flowers. Each of these species has its own unique characteristics, from the shape of their leaves to the color of their blooms. And understanding these differences is the first step towards successful orchid care. With a basic understanding of orchids, we're ready to delve into the optimal conditions for their growth. Creating a conducive environment for your orchids is key to their thriving growth. It's all about finding the sweet spot between light, temperature, and humidity. Let's break it down, shall we? Light is the lifeblood of any plant, and orchids are no exceptions. These exotic beauties typically prefer bright, indirect light. Too much direct sunlight can scorch their leaves, while too little can stunt their growth. So, find a spot in your home that gets plenty of filtered or morning light, and your orchids should be happy. Now let's talk temperature. Most orchids thrive in moderate temperatures, typically between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and between 50 and 60 degrees at night. These tropical plants enjoy a slight drop in temperature at night, as it mimics their natural habitat. So, don't worry if your home gets a bit cooler when the sun goes down. Humidity is another crucial factor in orchid care. Orchids love moisture, but not too much. Aim for a relative humidity of about 50 to 70%. Too dry, and the orchids may dehydrate. Too damp, and they become prone to fungal and bacterial diseases. But how do you maintain these conditions, you ask? Well, that's where some handy tools come into play. A humidifier can help maintain the right humidity levels, especially in dry climates or air-conditioned rooms. A thermometer can keep you informed about your room's temperature, and a light meter can ensure your orchids are getting the optimal amount of light. So there you have it. Orchid care is not just about watering and feeding, it's also about providing them with the ideal growing conditions. It's like setting a stage for a performance. And when the stage is perfectly set, the performers, in this case, your orchids, can truly shine. Mastering the right growing conditions sets the stage for the next crucial step: watering and feeding. Just like us, orchids need water and nutrients to thrive. Now, watering and feeding your orchids might seem like a straightforward task, but in reality, it's a delicate balance. One that, when mastered, can lead your orchids to blossom beautifully year after year. Let's start with watering. Orchids aren't your typical houseplants. They don't appreciate being drenched. Instead, they prefer a good soak, followed by a thorough draining. Picture a tropical rainstorm, a downpour followed by brilliant sunshine. That's what your orchids are craving. And the type of water? Rainwater is the gold standard, but if that's not an option, tap water left standing overnight works just fine too. Now, on to the question that keeps many orchid lovers awake at night. How often should I water my orchids? The answer, my friends, lies in the art of observation. Your orchids will tell you when they're thirsty. Their roots will turn a silver or white color, signaling that it's time for a drink. On average, this might be once a week in the summer and once every 10 days in the winter. But remember, observation overrules schedule. Feeding your orchids, on the other hand, is all about providing those essential nutrients that they can't get from water alone. This is where orchid fertilizer comes into play. A balanced orchid fertilizer, ideally one with equal parts nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, will keep your orchids in tip-top shape. Use it every 2 weeks or so, but don't forget to give your orchids a break with a plain water rinse between feedings. And that's it, folks. Proper watering and feeding aren't rocket science, but they do require a bit of attention and care. Just remember, your orchids are more resilient than you think. They've been around for millions of years after all. With watering and feeding down, let's move on to repotting and troubleshooting common issues. Because as with all things in life, sometimes, despite our best efforts, things don't quite go as planned. But don't worry, we've got you covered. Repotting is a vital part of orchid care, and knowing how to tackle common issues can save your precious plant. Orchids, unlike many other houseplants, don't thrive in regular potting soil. Instead, they prefer a more aerated medium, something that mimics their natural habitat, where they grow on trees and rocks. Bark chips, sphagnum moss, or a blend of these can be ideal choices. When it comes to repotting, timing is key. Orchids are best repotted after they've finished blooming, typically every 2 to 3 years. However, if you spot yellowing leaves, soggy roots, or the plant outgrowing its pot, it might be time to repot sooner. Now let's talk about the process. Firstly, gently remove the orchid from its current pot. Carefully shake off the old medium from the roots, making sure not to damage them. If you spot any dead or rotten roots, trim them off with a sterilized pair of scissors. Next, place some fresh potting medium at the base of a new pot. Set your orchid in, spreading the roots out evenly. Then, fill in around the roots with more medium, pressing lightly to secure the plant. But remember, orchids like their space, so don't pack the medium too tightly. Now, onto some common issues. Overwatering is a common mistake, leading to root rot. If the roots look brown and feel mushy, you're probably overdoing it. Cut back on watering and ensure your potting medium drains well. Pests can also be a problem, especially mealybugs and scale. These tiny critters can be tackled by wiping the affected area with a cotton swab dipped in rubbing alcohol. Lastly, if your orchid isn't blooming, it might not be getting enough light. Try moving it to a brighter spot, but avoid direct sunlight, which can scorch the leaves. Repotting and addressing common issues are key to maintaining a flourishing orchid. Now that we've covered the basics, let's explore some advanced care tips. For those who wish to take their orchid care to the next level, here are some advanced techniques. One of these is the art of cloning orchids, which involves using a special paste known as keiki paste. This paste, when applied to a specific node on the stem of your orchid, encourages the plant to grow a new baby orchid, also known as a keiki. It's a fascinating process that can double your orchid collection without having to buy new plants. Another advanced technique is managing the blooming cycles of your orchids. Orchids, unlike other houseplants, have a unique blooming cycle. With the right care and attention, you can encourage your orchids to bloom multiple times a year. This involves carefully monitoring the light, temperature, and feeding schedule of your plants to ensure they have the optimal conditions for blooming. With these advanced tips, you're well on your way to becoming an orchid expert. We've journeyed through the captivating world of orchids and discovered how to care for them. From understanding their unique characteristics and optimal growing conditions, to mastering watering, feeding, and repotting techniques. We've also delved into common issues and advanced care tips, shedding light on the path to thriving orchids. Remember, every orchid is a testament to patience and care. So don't hesitate to apply these tips and experiment with your orchid care routines. With these tips in hand, you're ready to embark on your orchid care journey. Happy gardening!